James Carter stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring out at the vast swirl of stars. The human space station hovered silently above the newly colonized planet Zira, its metal hull gleaming under the distant light of a blue sun. He had spent many years in space facing dangers, making choices that weighed heavily on him, but nothing prepared him for what he was about to encounter. A decade ago, he had been just another soldier on a dangerous mission. Zira had been a young, vibrant planet, filled with alien cities built in impossible spires and glowing streets that hummed with energy. James had been on a humanitarian operation, sent to assist in disaster relief after an unstable geological zone had triggered massive earthquakes. In the chaos, a small alien child, no more than 7 years old, had been trapped beneath rubble. She had purple-tinted skin, large violet eyes, and an expression of fear that haunted him even now. Without thinking, he had risked his life to pull her out. The child had clutched his arm, trembling, whispering words he didn't understand, but her eyes had spoken gratitude and trust. That moment had stayed with him. Now, years later, the memory felt alive again. The space station's communication panel blinked, signaling an incoming message. James moved to the console, his fingers steady despite the anticipation he felt. The holographic display shimmered to life, revealing an alien delegation, their uniforms sharp, their posture formal. At the center stood a figure that made his heart skip. The child he had saved, now fully grown. She was taller than he remembered, her violet eyes now intense, her presence commanding. Lyra. She stepped forward, her gaze locking with his, and for a moment, the room seemed to shrink around them. James felt the weight of the years, the changes, the unknowns. She approached with measured steps, her voice calm but firm as she spoke through the translator embedded in her collar. "Captain James Carter, it is good to see you again." He nodded, struggling to find words. "Lyra, you've grown." Her lips curved slightly, a small, controlled smile. "As have you." The rest of the delegation waited, eyes observing the human cautiously. Lyra, though, remained focused on James. The tension was palpable, a mix of curiosity, recognition, and unspoken questions. James felt a strange mix of pride and apprehension. He had saved a child, but now he faced an adult who had her own thoughts, her own skills, and her own judgments. Lyra turned to her companions, signaling that introductions could continue. "We have come with a matter of urgency," she said. "Our planet faces a threat we cannot manage alone. We request your assistance." James listened as the details unfolded. Deep beneath Zira's capital, a core of energy that powered the city's technology had become unstable. If not corrected, it could trigger a catastrophic collapse, destroying the city and countless lives. The humans had technology that could assist, and the aliens had knowledge James had never seen before. It was a combination that required precision, trust, and courage. He felt the familiar stir of responsibility. He had saved her once. Now he had the chance to protect her world. But this time it was different. Lyra was no longer a child who needed him. She was a leader, capable and intelligent, yet the echoes of their past connection lingered in every glance, every gesture. The delegation moved through the station, Lyra walking beside James as he guided them. He noticed her studying everything, the human equipment, the way the station operated, even the subtle expressions of the crew. She was evaluating, learning, assessing, and yet, every so often, her eyes flicked to him, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they shared. As they prepared to travel to Zira's surface, James briefed the delegation on safety protocols. Lyra listened carefully, asking precise questions that revealed a deep understanding of both her planet's needs and the risks involved. He found himself impressed, reminded of the resilience and intelligence that had been in her even as a child. The shuttle descended into Zira's atmosphere. The city sprawled below like a living organism. Towers of crystalline metal glimmered in the light, streets pulsing with energy, vehicles hovering silently, but James's eyes were on the ground beneath them. Sensors began to detect instability, subtle tremors that spoke of danger. Lyra's expression tightened. "It is worse than we anticipated," she said quietly. "The energy core is destabilizing faster than our predictions. We must act immediately." They landed near the city center, greeted by a crowd of alien officials and engineers. Lyra moved with authority, directing teams with calm efficiency, her voice carrying across the chaos. James followed closely, sensing the undercurrent of tension. The city was beautiful, vibrant, alive, but it could become a graveyard in moments if they failed. As they approached the energy core's access point, the ground shuddered violently. James grabbed the railing, steadying himself. "Stay close," he instructed, his tone firm. Lyra nodded, moving beside him. They had faced danger together once, and instinctively, he felt the need to protect her again. The quake intensified. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling. Engineers shouted warnings, trying to stabilize equipment. And then, a section of the platform beneath them cracked, threatening to collapse. Lyra's eyes widened, not with fear but with determination. She reached out to stabilize a falling engineer, but another crack opened beneath her feet. James reacted instantly. He lunged forward, catching her arm. The two stumbled but remained upright. The familiarity of the motion struck him. Just as he had lifted her years ago, he had lifted her now. But the difference was clear. She was no longer fragile. She held herself with strength, her other hand steadying the engineer she had saved. "James," she said, her voice steady despite the tremors. "We cannot stop. The city depends on this core." He looked at her, amazed. The child he had rescued had grown into a leader, fearless and capable. "Then we'll do it together," he said. They moved carefully through the chaos, combining human technology and alien knowledge. Lyra guided teams to stabilize the most dangerous zones, while James coordinated human engineers and sensors. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the ground shook beneath them, but they pushed forward. Each step was a dance between danger and precision. During a brief pause, James caught her looking at him. There was a flash of recognition. A silent message carried through the chaos. She remembered, and somehow she trusted him still. He felt the weight of their shared history, not as a duty but as a bond that had transcended time and distance. The tremors grew stronger. The energy core, exposed and unstable, sent waves of heat and light through the chamber. James and Lyra exchanged a glance, understanding without words. The core had to be contained or the city would be lost. Lyra moved first, climbing a structural beam to reach the control interface. James followed, his human instincts guiding him as he balanced the dangers of alien architecture. They worked side by side, hands steady, minds focused. Lyra input commands, her knowledge precise, while James adapted human systems to interface with Zyra's technology. A sudden surge knocked James backward. He caught himself just in time, sliding along the platform as sparks erupted around him. Lyra's eyes locked on his, concern flashing for a brief moment before determination returned. She signaled he was okay and they resumed their task. Minutes felt like hours. The core pulsed violently, threatening to overwhelm their efforts. James's hands were steady but tense, sweat running down his forehead. Lyra's calm focus was almost unnatural in the chaos, but James understood it came from years of training, of leadership, and of survival. Finally, with a coordinated effort, they managed to stabilize the core. The tremors subsided, the alarms quieted, and the glow of the city returned to a steady, safe pulse. Around them, engineers cheered, officials bowed in gratitude, and citizens slowly emerged from shelters. James exhaled deeply, looking at Lyra. She was breathing heavily, but her eyes shone with relief and accomplishment. He realized then that the child he had saved had grown into someone who could face unimaginable danger and emerge stronger. Lyra turned to him, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion. "You kept your promise," she said softly. "You saved me once, and now together we saved many." James nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "You didn't need saving this time," he said. "But I'm glad I was here." For a moment, the chaos and danger faded, leaving only the two of them in the quiet aftermath. The bond they shared, forged in childhood, had endured. It had evolved, grown, and strengthened, shaping not just their lives but the future of Zira. As they prepared to return to the station, James realized that this was only the beginning. Lyra was no longer a child in need of protection. She was a leader, a partner, and a symbol of what humans and aliens could achieve together. And somewhere deep inside he knew that their story, once written in fear and survival, was now being rewritten in courage, trust, and hope. The stars outside the shuttle window stretched endlessly, and James felt a thrill of anticipation. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and wonders, but with allies like Lyra, he knew humanity had a place, a purpose, and for the first time in a long time, he felt the full weight and joy of being human, not just in strength, but in heart. The shuttle lifted off, carrying them toward new challenges, new discoveries, and the promise of a future shaped by courage and friendship. And as James watched Lyra sit beside him, confident and unafraid, he knew that the child he had. James and Lyra returned to the station, but the events on Zira weighed heavily on both of them. Though the energy core had been stabilized, the underlying instability of the planet reminded James that danger was never far from any world. Lyra, however, seemed determined, her eyes reflecting a mix of resolve and curiosity. Back on the station, she met with human scientists and engineers, explaining Zira's technology in detail. James watched her, amazed by how she bridged the gap between their species. Her leadership and intellect commanded respect, and humans found themselves inspired by her dedication. "You adapted faster than anyone I've ever met," James said quietly as they walked through the observation deck. Lyra smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "I had a good teacher once. You taught me courage and how to trust others." They shared a quiet laugh, the tension of the previous day easing. Yet the mission was far from over. Reports came in. Other regions of Zira were showing signs of instability. James realized that saving the city was only the first step. The planet needed ongoing protection, collaboration, and understanding between human and alien technologies. Together, they devised a plan. Human engineers would stay on Zira to assist with structural reinforcements, while Lyra coordinated her people to monitor the energy network. James trained a team to respond quickly to emergencies, teaching them strategies that combined human ingenuity with alien science. As days turned into weeks, James and Lyra worked closely. They faced challenges, unpredictable quakes, resource shortages, and political tensions between factions who doubted human intervention. Each obstacle tested their patience, knowledge, and leadership. Yet through every trial, their bond grew stronger, not as rescuer and rescued, but as partners united by a common goal. One evening, after a particularly long day, they stood atop a platform overlooking the city. The glow of Zira's towers reflected in the water canals below, and the hum of the energy network was steady for the first time in months. "You've changed this planet," James said, his voice low. Lyra nodded, her gaze sweeping over the city. "We changed it together. But it is not just the planet, it is the people. And you reminded me that courage matters, no matter the size of the hand that offers it." James looked at her, remembering the small child he had once held in his arms. Now she was a leader, equal in strength and purpose. "You've grown into someone remarkable," he said sincerely. "And you've grown too," she replied. "Humans have a way of leaving a mark on everyone they meet. I remember that day, and I will never forget it." Their mission on Zira became a symbol. Humans were no longer distant observers, they were allies. Lyra's leadership, paired with James's guidance, inspired cooperation and friendship across species. Zira's citizens began to view humans not just as saviors in moments of crisis, but as partners in building a stable, thriving future. The final challenge came when a massive storm struck the northern sector of the city, threatening to disrupt the energy network again. James and Lyra led the response, directing teams with precision and calm. Despite the chaos, they moved efficiently, saving structures, guiding civilians, and reinforcing the energy core. When the storm finally passed, the city stood intact. Citizens celebrated, praising both Lyra and James. But more importantly, the humans and Zirians shared a deeper understanding, one born of trust, courage, and collaboration. As the sun rose over Zira, James and Lyra stood together once more. The child he had saved had become a force capable of shaping the fate of a world, and in turn, she had shown humans a path toward meaningful partnership across the stars. "Thank you, James," Lyra said, her voice gentle but strong, "for everything." He smiled, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. "No, Lyra, thank you, for reminding me why we do what we do, and for showing me what courage truly looks like." The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of unknown dangers and wonders. Yet with allies like Lyra, humans had a place in shaping the future. Together they could face anything, because courage, wisdom, and trust were stronger than fear, distance, or time. And as they watched Zira awaken under a new day, James knew this was only the beginning. A new chapter of human-alien partnership had begun, and the story of a small act of bravery, the saving of a child, had grown into a legacy that would reach across worlds.